I feel like I should have worn red.
Yeah, but it's basically
You kind of own red. Yeah. That's kind of like that's kind of your color. Like everybody has, like the top tech people, they have uniforms, and this isn't your uniform, but like red is like.
Yeah.
Is that by design?
There's actually and there's a story to that, and actually you shouldn't be wearing red because then like it doesn't stand out, but the thing is that it was so I was wearing red before Rovio and Angry Birds, but then I don't remember, it was like probably 2010 or something like that, and I wanted to make a point to the team about like differentiation, and then I went to this event actually similar to this, and I was on like a panel. I think it was in Berlin or somewhere, and then serious business event, and everybody's wearing like dark suit and all of that, and then I was wearing a red hoodie like this, and then I just had a picture taken of that panel, went back to Helsinki, showed it to the team and said, okay, that this is how you do it. And then Juhana Kotilainen, who was like Rovio marketing at the time, then he ordered everybody like these red Angry Birds hoodies, and then that became like the kind of like the Rovio uniform, if you will, and very easy to always like spot the Rovio guys because of the red hoodie. But then when everybody is wearing red hoodie, it doesn't work. So when we started Lightyear, then the only one wearing a red hoodie is me, and everybody else has a green hoodie. So I learned kind of like that, okay, that's how you need to do it. But yeah, so there's...
you have like a closet just full of red stuff? Like is that all you wear?
I have like...
Not so much?
I have... quite a few different like red hoodies nowadays because lots of different companies. So I have my Tunnel Builder like red hoodie, and I have my Lightyear red hoodie, and Fun Academy, and like bunch of these. So lots of red hoodies. But yeah, so red is definitely like my color.
So a lot of people say like you can only do one thing really well, and you have all of these different projects going on. Like what do you focus on?
Everything. And I think that I'm very focused on like whatever I happen to be doing like any given minute or sometimes longer. So yeah, but I don't have a problem in doing like many different things, and I think that there's actually a lot of synergy always, be it like a game or education or building a tunnel or whatever it might be. So I don't kind of like have a problem working on many things, and it's not like I'm doing everything myself, obviously. So I have lots of people working on many different things, and works for me anyway.
Yeah, Steve Jobs ran 3 companies, so why can't other people?
Yeah, and I heard about like there's some what's his name, Elon, that does few projects as well. Okay, not all of them are going particularly well, but anyway, I mean he's also building tunnels and working on some space-related stuff, I've understood. So I also have this Space Nation project that I'm working on, so building this borderless like planet. So we're working on that as well. But yeah, so it works.
We're going to get to the tunnel in a minute. I want to ask you about a couple things. Talk to us about branding a little bit. You've got small companies just getting started, building their brand for the first time. You've got people that work in big brands that are trying to take the brand to the next level. How do you look at brand? You really helped put Rovio and Angry Birds brand in the minds of virtually everyone on the planet. How did you do that? What kind of core things do you think about when you think about brand?
Yeah, so I think that for me, like brand is pretty much like everything, and I think that it's so it's not some kind of like visual representation of like whatever you happen to be doing. I mean, of course, the visuals are important, but so is audio, which, okay, I'm also involved in Audio Track, which is doing audio branding. Okay, different story. But anyway, so brand is really like the whole like the story of what you are doing, what your company is doing, and I think that's super important. And yeah, Angry Birds, I think it's a fantastic brand because what happens the first time you hear Angry Birds? You ask why. Why are the birds angry? And once you ask that question, we're stuck in your head forever. So done. And I think that, I mean, I was involved in setting up this MobileMonday thing all the way back in like 2000. And MobileMonday, it's also one of these brands that it kind of like sticks in your head. And when we then brought MobileMonday to Tokyo, then somebody captured like a piece of video. This was pre-YouTube and all of that. And then Mike and Russ in Silicon Valley, they were running this thing called the Bay Area Mobility Association, and it hadn't gotten like lots of traction. And okay, for those of you who weren't in the mobile space back then, this was the time when I was constantly told while I was working at HP that Peter, you have to understand, we don't need mobile phones in the US because we have so many pay phones. So there's like no need. And then I was trying to explain that, okay, actually you might need mobile phones and like all of that. But it turned out that it was the case, But anyway, so then Mike and Russ, who had been running this Bay Area Mobility Association for like a while, they saw this video of MobileMonday in Tokyo and say, hey, cool, and then they rebranded this Bay Area Mobility Association into MobileMonday Silicon Valley, and it took off, and they were doing exact same thing. So I think that it's really important that if you are doing fantastic things, you should also give those fantastic things a fantastic brand. I mean, otherwise you're just like handicapping yourself for no reason. And I mean, okay, Slush, another example of that started Slush in 2008, and we wanted to do something again different. Everybody else running around, the place telling you that, Beijing will be the Silicon Valley of China, and then go to the Hangzhou to Alibaba conference next day, and then Jack Ma sings a song. Mayor of Hangzhou gets on the stage and says that, hey, Hangzhou will be the Silicon Valley of China. Or you go to Tokyo and they will tell you that they will want to be the Silicon Valley of Asia or whatever. And of course, I mean, if you've been to Silicon Valley, and as I said, I started my career at the original startup that Bill and Dave started in 1939 in their garage in Palo Alto, and then Silicon Valley happened. So been there, done that. So with Slush, what we wanted to do is not just create an event, but create like a movement to change the mindset first in Finland and then like rest of the planet when it comes to like startups and entrepreneurship, all of that. So we named the thing Slush, because when you come to Helsinki in November, guess what? Slush, yes. It's cold, it's dark, there's slush on the ground, so it's very clear that it's not the Silicon Valley. It's better. It's much, much better because it's different. And again, like the brand, of course we could have called it like Silicon Valley North or some clueless thing like that, but we decided to call it Slush, and now Slush is the biggest and best startup event on the planet. So I think that it has to do, of course, how we're doing things, but it has to do with the brand. So MobileMonday, Slush, Startup Sauna, bunch of things like these branded communities that I've been involved with. And I think that, again, the brand is not something that you like ask an agency that could you please like do some brand for us that we're doing this and that. I mean, it's like you, it's your company, it's what you're doing. So you can't like ask other people to tell you what you're doing or what to do.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're, well, so,
I mean, your parents can give you a name, but after that you should like be in charge. So,
yeah. So I mean, you talked about sort of Angry Birds stopping you in your tracks, or it's sort of provocative. It's kind of, it sounds almost off in some ways, but at the same time, I guess like, what is the sniff test for you with a brand? If you hear a brand and you don't ask yourself why, does that then tell you that like it's not that interesting, or do you need to hear the story? Do you need to hear how it ties in with the visuals? I think that
ideally it should be kind of like a brand that really triggers a question, or at least triggers some kind of reaction. Because if the brand does like nothing, it's quite likely that you will forget about it like within an hour or like 5 minutes. So you will not be able to tell your friends about, oh, have you played this fantastic game? And okay, I don't remember the name now. And okay, if you don't remember the name, how likely is it that you will find it in the App Store where there are 700 new games hitting like every single day? And of course, you have hundreds of thousands of games already there. So always say that, I mean, there are 700 very good games hitting the market every day, but most of those, like even great games, you never hear about because they're just like called something that's, like in through one ear, out through the other, forgot about it, and you can't tell your friends. So for me, it's really important that the brand is like good enough so that you actually remember it and you are able to tell the world and tell your friends that, hey, have you heard about this like super cool new thing called Slush or whatever.
Yeah. Talk to us about building tunnels.
Yeah.
So I mean,
it's like fashionable nowadays to build tunnels. Yeah.
It is very fashionable.
Yeah.
So I mean, I met an entrepreneur this morning that's just trying to get like a mobile dating app off the ground, and you're literally trying to build a tunnel under a pretty massive body of water to connect it to another country that then connects to an island that you're going to build. I don't even know where to start. There's so many questions. I have so many questions here. But tell me, why in the world, of all the things you could work on, and you're working on several different things, but why the tunnel?
Yeah, but for me, it's actually all part of kind of like the bigger picture. So kind of like what I started working on all the way back when I started this HP Bazaar thing back in 1999, which was like co-working before co-working and like bunch of like marketing partner developer program, and again called it a bazaar because everybody else was talking about like competence centers, and I say, okay, we're not that competent, not that central, so let's not lie and like let's call it a bazaar. But anyway, so then started that in Helsinki, and then it took off, and we took that to a bunch of cities around the world within like the HP like constraints. But anyway, so then always looked at this through kind of like a ecosystem approach. So I was talking about ecosystems and all that like back in 1999. So pretty early, and then during the years, okay, I needed to start MobileMonday because I need to connect with all the hotspots, all over the planet when it comes to mobile development. Slush, just because I actually gave a talk 2007 in Helsinki to 600 Aalto University students about entrepreneurship, and then I asked the students that, okay, how many of you guys are going to start your own company or like join a startup once you graduate or even before? And in 2007, which is only like 11 years ago, out of the 600 students, only 3 raised their hand. So that's like disaster. I mean, future of the nation is at stake. We need to do something. So we started Slush. And then 5 years after Slush, went back to Aalto University, asked the same question, more than half raised their hand. So we did like a cultural revolution in 5 years. But then, of course, this is not more than like a good start. So then, again, this cold, dark slush on the ground, not the Silicon Valley better. Okay, we need to deliver still on like the better part. So what we're doing now with the tunnel is we're creating the highest talent density, the highest talent intensity anywhere on the planet.
Okay.
I mean, so
You'll have engineers in the tunnels, or what do you know?
No, but it's actually, we have 4 stations around the tunnel, so airport to airport, so Helsinki Airport, Tallinn Airport. Then we have this Otaniemi, Keilaniemi, which happens to be the home of like Aalto University, and then Island Station and Ülemiste in like that's the airport in Tallinn. And the Aalto like University Station, we are creating housing for 50,000 additional people. Same thing on the island, and then we have 50,000 also at like around the airport, so bringing in 200,000 new people into the Helsinki-Tallinn like metropolitan area. We already have the highest density when it comes to game developers, game companies, but now we're doing the same when you look at like AI and all of that. So bringing together talent at massive scale, and of course we're super happy with the biggest marketing campaign ever for us. It's run by this guy called Trump in the US. Only concern right now is that he's not going to last for the full 8 years, but we'll see. So we are seeing massive influx of talent because they're not like extremely wanted in Silicon Valley. So for example, now just a piece of like stat there that we had last year, I mean, India is now approaching the same level of foreign students outside of India. China has 1 million students outside. India will have 1 million very soon, so it's growing very fast. Last year, the number of Indian students in US went down by 26%. so new students. So clearly they're going somewhere else, and we've decided to open up 150,000 new seats at the universities in Finland for foreign students, 30,000 in Estonia. So we're like creating talent density at scale. So we're building with the tunnel massive gravity. And again, so the tunnel is just a tunnel, but what we're building is the biggest innovation platform and ecosystem anywhere, because we're investing 15 billion euros into the tunnel. And there's a rule of thumb that says that if you invest like €1 below ground, you'll see 10 euros above ground. So 15 billion below, 150 billion in development above ground, 4 stations, future of mobility. So basically all the autonomous vehicles and mobility as service is happening first in this Helsinki-Tallinn metropolitan area. So that's why we're building the tunnel, not because building tunnels is cool, but it's to create this talent density and intensity in very small parts.
Is it an initiative for the country? Is it an initiative personally for you? Is it, I mean, like? So
we have both governments supporting us very nicely. So we had a joint session of the Finnish and Estonian government 7th of May in Tallinn, and basically both Prime Minister Sipilä of Finland and Prime Minister Ratas of Estonia said that they're giving their full support for doing the tunnel as a private project. So we have very good collaboration between like our government and the private side. So we're very.
But they don't fund it. They're not
funding it. So we're doing private funding, and most likely 70% or so will come from China. So it's part of like the Belt and Road Initiative, and so I think that we're very fortunate to have like a sane government, so we can actually work with them.
I mean, have you considered the first tunnel ICO in the whole world? Have you,
let's say that we of course are looking at the ICO space, and if you look at the discussion, I mean, like in particular, like Estonia, again, there's been lots of discussion about them being the first nation with crypto connected to national currency, but of course we both have the euro, so you can't try like just go out and do that. But I think that it's quite likely that you'll see very interesting development in our part of the world, and we happen to be the closest neighbor of China, closest neighbor of India, closest neighbor of Japan in Europe. So it's 6 hours from Helsinki to Delhi, a bit under 7 hours to Beijing, and we have best connection to or connectivity to Asia of any kind of like metropolitan area in this part of the world. So it's kind of like a good start.
And the space between the countries is massive. It's 86 kilometers, 55 miles, and so you're taking all of that dirt that you're building from the tunnel, and then you're taking that dirt and building an island essentially in between the two countries.
Yep.
And then what happens? What's unique about the island? It's kind of like one of these islands in Dubai, or is it like?
Yeah, I mean, it's like nicely designed. It's very functional. There's again space for 50,000 people to live and work and be entertained on the island, and it has the best connectivity of pretty much any location, because you get on a train at the island, 10 minutes later you're at the airport in Helsinki, and 6 hours later you're in Delhi, 7 hours later you're in Beijing. Of course, the other way around. I was actually in Tallinn on Monday, and half of the passengers on the ferry were from China, which is like pretty interesting. And Helsinki is the busiest passenger harbor on the planet, which probably many of you didn't know. We passed Dover last year, so there's big like demand already. But yeah, the island, it's of course super nice, and what's interesting that it's within like the Eurozone, so it's like part of Europe. So we expect a lot of the Brexit refugees to end up on the island, and on the island everybody speaks English, and English is the official language. So we're going to be back here in London talking to the local like Brexit refugees, especially in the city. I was already there like a month ago.
Sounds like you need like a sort of like a Statue of Liberty kind of thing, like give us you're tired and you're poor, but for...
And all the bankers, yeah.
And
exactly.
all the bankers.
Yeah, so we're giving them a life, but yeah.
Do you feel like you always sort of had these big ideas, or do you feel like that a MobileMonday or Slush or some of these ideas they started small and they became big, and then as you like worked on something like Rovio and saw such huge global success with that brand and those products, that do you feel that sort of came through experience? Do you feel like, and how would you encourage people to actually get out of their, the small sort of thinking that they have and actually think bigger? Is there a way to learn that skill?
Yeah, I think that probably yes, and I think that I think a lot of people in Finland and Estonia have learned that through things like Slush and other things. I mean, I think, for example, Estonia. I mean, like fantastic results. 1.3 million people, 4 unicorns. I mean, that's like amazing number for like such a small population. Or I mean, also in Finland, I mean, we created the first decacorn in the form of Supercell. So 10 billion exit to like Tencent, and that Ilkka and the guys built that like in a few years, and they actually launched Supercell obviously at Slush, so that's like nice as well. But I think that if I look at like the stuff that I worked on, what I always say is what's like cool about the future is that you can like have an impact on it, you can like create it. And the future is what we make it to be. And when I was at the Rovio and I told everybody there that, okay, we're going to have 100 million downloads. And this was when we had like maybe 1 or 2. And nobody had ever had 100 million downloads of anything. I mean, Tetris got close to that, but it took them 20 years. So everybody told me that, hey, Peter, you're crazy. It's not possible. Nobody has done that. And then it took us 15 months, 100 million. And after that, everything became easy. And the same thing kind of like with MobileMonday, that I told the team at HP that we're going to have this Fight Club-like strategy. And then what I meant by that, I mean, if you see in the movie, that these like Fight Club cells just pop up without the guys even knowing about it. And people are starting these, I mean, a bit like startup grind, like all over the planet. But anyway, so similar strategy. But then what happened was that Mike and Russ that I mentioned, they started MobileMonday in Silicon Valley without me ever even meeting them. So then I read a blog post by Mike back in the day saying that, oh, they've now started MobileMonday in Silicon Valley. And then I went to show the team at HP that, hey, this is what I meant. Read this. We never met with these guys, and they have now started MobileMonday in Silicon Valley. And then what of course happened, that everybody thought that, oh, this is some kind of Silicon Valley thing, we need to have a MobileMonday, and then we had like LA, San Diego, Chicago, New York, DC, Vancouver, Toronto, Beijing, Shanghai, London, everywhere done. So I think that you just need to create enough of a story, enough of a brand, and it's like all like intertwined, and know what you're doing. So for example, now with this tunnel project and this like finest Bay Area that we are building, apparently there's some Bay Area in other part of the world as well, but this is obviously the finest. But yeah, so you have to build the story, you have to then like work towards kind of like that goal, and then when everybody knows where you're going, it's actually pretty easy. And it's like surprising how many companies, when you ask them like what they are doing, you ask like random employee, random person, they don't have a clue. And I think that that's just like bad leadership. And you need to like communicate, like share, like all the time.
Again and again and again, repeat again and again and again.
Yeah, and that's what I do like on a daily basis, just doing that. And then when everybody knows where we're going, then like the tunnel will be done like 24th of December 24, like easy to remember date. Trains will be running and we're there. So, and that's then after that we'll see what we'll do. But I also have this like Space Nation thing, so, we have some plans for that, but that's
we'll
that's
finish
for
the
later.
tunnel and then we'll just leave it and get out of here.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Peter, thank you very
Yeah,
much
hey, thank
for being
you,
here.
thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much.